Hi there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. So we've got lots of interesting stuff to look at this week, not least a couple of races from Brigadier Gerard night at Sandown Park and a very impressive 2-year-old performance at Navan on Saturday afternoon as well. One theme seems to run through The Verdict this week, and that is of front-running rides, which I will analyse using the course track sectionals. We are going to start earlier in the week at Hamilton Park with an interesting performance from a George Bowie trained handicapper, and that horse was Inver Park, who went off the 8-11 favourite for this 6-furlong handicap. Nearly a goner was 5-1, Tipperary Tiger was 8-1, it was 12-1 Devs the Boy, and 14s and bigger the rest. And this is quite an impressive performance from Inver Park, who jumped out of stall number 4. You'll be able to keep an eye on this horse throughout the race, ridden by William Buick. Rose Bandit was in third place. Tipperary Tiger was second and Rose Bandit was in third. Send them on their way. Why did I pick this race out? Well, I picked it out because this is a very good time performance from Inver Park, who gets a lead in the early part of the race. Remember, they're going downhill here, so when you're analysing the course track sectionals, remember that you would expect them to be going a little bit quicker than you would normally see on a flat track, because they do go quite sharply downhill. Then they run uphill in the closing part of the race. It was an evenly run affair. They didn't hang about. 101.99% was the finishing speed percentage, and because of that it produced a really good final time, the best time on Hamilton's card on this particular day. It was 1 minute 11.06. Now William Buick's just looking for a little bit of room at this stage as we're about to hit the 2 pole. There he is in there, trying to decide whether to come between horses or to switch wide. And once he does get a run, this horse quickens up in really good fashion. The 5th furlong being the most impressive, 10.95 according to the course track sectionals. This horse fired, and that really put the rest away, as did the overall final 3 furlongs. 34.68 for the winner, far side with the blue and the yellow stars. And that was much better than any other horse was able to achieve. 35.54 compared to 34.68 for the runner-up, much quicker in the final 3 furlongs, and eased down in the closing stages by William Buick. I think Inver Park will stay another furlong. This was over 6, would definitely stay 7 furlongs. But this horse is an up-and-coming sprinter, and an entry into Wokingham, well, it might look like pie in the sky at this stage, but he's going forward rapidly. He's improving really quickly. Used to be with Mick Quinn, was bought quite cheaply out of that yard. Joined George Bowie and has not looked back ever since. And this on the clock was a very good performance. That 10.95 second furlong routed the field, and this horse cleared away to win very impressively. He won off a mark of 85 here, so he's going to get a bit of a hike. He's going to be in the low 90s, you would have thought, after this. And I think a big Premier handicap is on the cards for him. His days of winning a little handicap at Hamilton Park, although it was a competitive one, are gone, I think. I think he's going to be at places like Ascot in the future, because he is a very interesting sprinter. Look how he changed legs there, and look how he moves. There's hardly any knee curl whatsoever. He throws his legs out pretty straight in front of him, suggesting that he's always going to want decent ground, and he clears right away from his rivals. He changed legs a couple of times up the hill, but I think in so doing he was just quickening, and he pulled well clear of those in behind. The Wokingham, it's a possible for this horse. Remember the name, Inver Park. Let's move from sprinting at Hamilton Park to staying at Sandown. This was on Brigadier Gerard night, and it was the Coral Henry II Stakes Group 3 over 2 miles, and Quickthorn was the 11-4 favourite. Enemy was 7-2, arguably quite unlucky not to win the Cigarro at Ascot last time up. Thunderous was 4-1. John Leaper was 11-2, and 8-1 Alunak, who was quite well supported. Yukon Glen 12-1 from 16's horse, who won on this card last year, taking the Brigadier Gerard itself. Let's have a look and see what developed here. This is Quickthorn who won the race. He came out the widest gate. Nate the Great was second from stall 7, and third home was Rodrigo Diaz, who jumped out of stall number 1. Now, this is one of these front-running rides, one of several that we're going to look at in the verdict today, and it was a good ride from Tom Marquand. He was happy to stay wide in the early part of the race and just go dead straight. And he said afterwards, when interviewed, you don't lose anything if you just go straight from your stall, providing you're not going into a bend. You're not going to lose any ground whatsoever. And then if you just edge across gradually, you can then slot in wherever seems right according to the pace of the race. Now he tries to edge across, and he'll find himself in front before they go round the top bend at Sandown. This represented a change of tactics for Quickthorn. He's normally dropped in, he normally gets a lead off something, but here Tom Marquand was happy to lead, he's edging across, and now he dictates the pace throughout. Now, how good a front running ride was this? Well, yes, it was good. He's got to the front without using up a lot of energy, a lot of petrol, and then he's able to just go steady fractions out in front. It was good from him, but it wasn't so good from some of those in behind. They're spotting him an awful lot of ground. We'll go down the back and see how far some of his main rivals are behind him, and he's not going that fast. He didn't go a hard tempo. He didn't go a tempo that would suggest they should be this strung out. He just went even fractions throughout. The finishing speed percentage, 100.83%. He's only going evenly. He's not going mad. And some of those in behind will have wished that they sat a little bit closer to him. Out in front now with Nate the Great, who finished second. Well, guess where he is off this steady gallop? There's your winner. There he is in second place. And Rodrigo Diaz, who finished third, is in there. Here's Enemy, who had absolutely no chance the way the race panned out. He wants a strong gallop to go at, like when he won big handicap at Musselburgh, where he came from the back, and the first three indeed came from the back that day. He needs a really good gallop, and he didn't get it, and he's too far back. Marquand, yes, he's producing a masterclass out in front on Quickthorn, but he didn't have too many decisions to make. They made it very easy for him out there. Furlongs 5 and 6 of this race were pretty slow, 14.08 and 15.24. All the time Marquand filling Quickthorn up, not doing too much out in front, and he didn't really pick the pace up until the 14th and 15th furlong. Those were his best furlongs in the race, where he went 12.47 and 12.57. But I put it to you that to some extent he's been handed this, really. Yes, he's taken advantage, but it was also easy for him out there, and he was going to be, off these fractions, virtually impossible to close down, particularly from quite a long way back. For that reason, I'm definitely going to mark up Enemy. I'm also going to mark up Yukon Glen, who sat in behind Enemy at this stage. They're both here. There's Yukon and there's Enemy. Going to mark both of those up. I think Enemy is still a very exciting stayer going forward. He's going to win a big race, I think, this fella. He should have won the Cigar, as I mentioned at the top, at Ascot. He got trouble in running there, and he was a bit unlucky. And here, the way the race panned out, he had absolutely no chance. But he does make an eye-catching move to try and get into contention. Look how far back he is. Marquand has strung them out without going very fast in front. That's what the numbers tell us. He's completely got a solo. He's got it all his own way. As the Americans would say, he was just walking the dog out there, and it was very easy for him. He'll never get a trip like this again, you'd have thought, in a big staying race. It will be tougher for him going forward. He's not in the Ascot Gold Cup, but you could see him running Goodwood, for example. You could see him going to the Goodwood Cup. Here's Enemy making this move now, and the numbers show that he really did pick up pretty well at this point of the race, but he's got too much ground to make up. He's too far back, as are a number of others. Yukon Glen is now trying to run on at the back, and he does make up a little bit of headway, but he, like Enemy, had too much to do. This is where Quickthorn's good, though. He digs deep. Marquand saved plenty of petrol. It enables Quickthorn to dig into those reserves late in the piece, see off Nate the Great, and see off the third, Rodrigo Diaz, who stays on quite well. But the first two were 1-2 throughout the race. Marquand was handed this race on a silver platter, and he delivered.
And they're off for the Kazoo Derby.
The Tory is clear in the Derby for authorised 5 or 6 lengths. He's had to wait 15 years. Authorised will give Frankie the Tory his first Derby. It is Camelot who leads by 3 or 4 lengths from Astrology. The father and son combination of Joseph and Aidan O'Brien won the Investec Derby with Camelot. And Golden Horn looks like putting it to bed, and it is Golden Horn driven out, remains unbeaten. Golden Horn won the Derby.
Alan Kirby for a first classic success, and O'Dea is pouring on and striding clear to win the Kazoo Derby.
From Gold Cups to Grand Nationals, the latest big races to the famous clashes of the past, Racing TV's YouTube channel has it all.
Rachel Blackmore, history in the National, Manila Times win.
Catch up on episodes of shows that you might have missed, or enjoy hours of replays of some of your favourite races from the last 20 years. Simply head to YouTube and search for Racing TV. You'll never be far away from watching the next big race.
Hard. We're suspending you for 2 days.
Hard.
Hard.
Hard. Well, soft, but you know. Hard.
Hard! Oh. Racing is hard. Betting on it shouldn't be. The UK's #1 betting app. Built for ease. Sky Bet. That's betting better.
Let's have a look at one of the feature events of the week. It was the Coral Brigadier Gerard Stakes, the Group 3 over 10 furlongs at Sandown on Thursday night. And Mustadaf, unbeaten at Sandown, was the 6-5 favourite, but a bit uneasy in the market. Baybridge, very strong, 7-4 from 9-4. A Dabe, seasonal reappearance for him, 9-2. Lord Glitters, the Globetrotter, 25s, and Dubai Future was the outsider at 28-1. And this race produced a very impressive performance from the Sir Michael Stout trained Baybridge, and he displayed a sharp turn of foot to defeat his rivals. We'll send them on their way, and you'll see that a Dabe in the yellow colours goes to the front. Now, there was not much pace signed on in this race at all if you looked at it on paper, and once again it was Tom Marquand who went to the front on a Dabe, and he dictated quite a steady gallop. The winner's finishing speed percentage, 105.27, so he's come home 5.27% quicker in the last 3 furlongs than he ran the rest of the race. Where is he? He's here. You want to keep an eye on him through the race. So he is quickened up in good style. That's what the figures are telling us. Off a steady gallop, he's been able to quicken sharply and impressively to see off Mustadaf, who's on the outside there in the Shadwell colours, a little bit keen, just doing a bit too much right on the outside. And a Dabe, the front running a Dabe, a seasonal comeback performance that was a good one, you'd have to say. He was back in 3rd place in the end. The other two quite well beaten off. A race not run to suit the Grey Lord Glitters. He wants an end-to-end gallop. It didn't get an end-to-end gallop here, as that finishing speed percentage of 105.27 tells us. When did he quicken up Baybridge? Well, the course track sectionals are available on the Racing TV website. Tell us that it was his 7th furlong that was impressive. He went through the fastest split of the race there at 11.88 seconds. And he is a very, very progressive individual. Didn't handle the bend great. He just hung a little bit and put his head to the side as they turned in. He's just edging his way into 3rd place now under Ryan Moore, who's winning his 7th Brigadier Gerard. And this is where the pace picks up. This is where Marquand tries to nick it from the front. He tries to go, and indeed a Dabe does pick up. He picks up quite well according to the numbers, but not as well as Baybridge. Mustadaf, he promised a lot there on the bridle. He's still on the bridle, but he doesn't find as much as Baybridge, who now is about to quicken. And this is where he's really impressive. He flies home, there we go, 5.27% quicker this part of the race than he was in the early part of the contest. So he's quickened up well. He's capable of better if he gets an evenly run race, you would have thought. And he's miles better than these rivals. Mustadaf tasting defeat for the first time at Sandown. But look at this, Ryan Moore, it's just hands and heels on a really progressive son of New Bay. 5 wins on the bounce now for this fellow. And that was a 12th Brigadier Gerard for Sir Michael Stout. That is a tremendous record for Sir Michael. So we have to ask, what's next for this horse? Well, sky's the limit, you'd have thought. He's very good indeed. He's got a superb turn of foot. I'm sure he'd be able to produce that in an evenly run race. And therefore, Royal Ascot beckons, doesn't it? The Prince of Wales' stakes possibly. He's in the Hardwick as well. He's also in the Coral Eclipse, and that might be a possibility for him. Come back here to Sandown, he clearly handles the place fine, and that might be something that he will aim for. But think about this. What about this? What about the International at York, where he gets to knock heads with Baid stepping up in trip? Wow. Now that really would be a contest. Baid on the numbers would have the beating of this fellow at the moment, but this guy is hugely progressive. He's going forward at a rate of knots, and there might be more to come from him. Look at the substance in him. He's a beautiful horse to look at. He's improving all the time, and Group 1 glory no doubt awaits Bay Bridge this season. So we've had a look at a very good front-running ride from Tom Marquand and Quickthorn in the Coral Henry II Stakes. I've picked this race out at Pontefract. It's only a maiden handicap. I don't think it's a race that you should get too excited about. I don't think there's any horse to follow out of it. But I've picked it out because this was a superb front-running ride from Danny Tudhope on Smiling Jane, who went off the 9-4 joint favourite along with Filed Coast. And why it was so good was that he didn't panic when pressured. Now on Quickthorn, Marquand was never pressured. He just got his own way throughout the race. Danny Tudhope, however, in this race had decisions to make, particularly just as they turned for home, just before then, and he got it absolutely spot on. I'll show you what I mean if we send them on their way now. He jumped and went straight to the front on Smiling Jane from stall number 4. She defeats Mackenzie Rose, and Filed Coast jumped out of stall number 3 and finished back in 3rd place. Now, the finishing speed percentage, 105.42, a very similar percentage to the Bay Bridge one. She was able to finish off quite strongly, courtesy of saving petrol in the early part of the race. So Tudhope has got to the front here. The numbers show that he's dawdling along. A couple of furlongs were slower than 14 seconds at this part of the race, so he really is dawdling. But what can happen sometimes in slowly run races is that the leader gets pressured a long way from home. Other jockeys not wanting that leader to get an easy time of it, and they press them some way from home and they get going too soon, and then it sets up for a closer. The pace picks up too early, and here that threatened to happen. I think other jockeys, particularly to his outside, were keen to press on now. Filed Coast and Madame Bonbon will come up to Tudhope and press him on Smiling Jane, but he's having none of it. He doesn't panic. He doesn't kick on and try and say, I'm in the lead, I'm going to stay there. He says, okay, you want to come and sit upsides? Come on then. But I'm not doing anything. I'm going my own fractions. You can come and press me, you can pressure me, but I'm not going to kick too soon. And that's why this was so good, because you remember Quickthorn and Tom Marquand, nothing ever came up to him and pressured him a long way from home. He was always out there on a solo. But here, look, Madame Bonbon's coming, Filed Coast's coming. We stop it there. They really are applying pressure to his outside, these two horses. And Tudhope must be tempted to just change his hands or just to give Smiling Jane a click and go on and maintain his lead. But watch him, he sits still. He doesn't panic. He's thinking to himself probably, well, come on then, you come and press me, but I'm not going to go until I want to go. And he's still sat. He's not kicked yet. He's not been forced into making a premature move by those that loomed up on his outside. And now he's able to go when he wants to go. He's waited, he's got to the 2-pole, he's at the bottom of the hill, and that's when he decides he's going to ask Smiling Jane for a big effort. Filed Coast hangs on in there, and then the runner-up comes from some way back, but had too much to do really to catch a horse who'd got an easy lead out in front. But Tudhope, I put it to you, would not have won this race if he'd panicked at that point when he was joined by 2 other horses prior to turning in. But he didn't panic. He just sat and waited. It's that famous count to 10 moment just before they turned in. And in so doing, he had enough petrol and enough energy to see off the runner-up, Mackenzie Rose, who lunged late and came home quite strongly, according to the numbers. Now, she'll probably never get a trip like that again, Smiling Jane. She's lost her maiden tag now, but that was a superb ride from Danny Tudhope, and I thought it was well worth its place here in the verdict because he didn't panic. He just sat and went when he wanted to go. He's riding at the top of his game at the moment, Danny Tudhope, and you won't see many better rides from the front than that we saw at Pontefract last week.
And they're off for the Kazoo Derby.
What a race! Will give Frankie Dettori his first derby. The father and son combination won the Investec Derby with Camelot. And it is Golden Horn, driven out, remains unbeaten.
Gaunt is striding clear to win the Kazoo Derby.
Racing TV's social media channels are always at your fingertips wherever you are. Watch the day's big races again and join the debate. Read tips from the experts and catch up with the latest breaking news. Enjoy highlights from the channel and expert insight that you might have missed. Make sure you stay in the know by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Stay ahead of the pack. Follow Racing TV on social media today.
Hard. We're suspending you for 2 days.
Hard.
Hard.
Hard. Well, soft, but you know. Hard.
Hard! Racing is hard. Betting on it shouldn't be. The UK's #1 betting app. Built for ease. Sky Bet. That's betting better.
We've had a look at a couple of front-running rides so far. Quickthorn and Smiling Jane. We've got another one coming up now. In the Betfred John Gaunt Stakes, Group 3 over 7 furlongs and 37 yards. Kinross, the rightful favourite really, on form 9-4. Sunray Major 7-2. Landcash 5-1. Happy Power 7-1. Spycatcher 7-1. 17-2. Pogo, Misty Grey 22s and Catch 22 was 100-1. And it was Kieran Schumacher who should take a bow for this particular ride on Pogo, winning for the Charlie Hills team. Send them on their way. Now this was quite a muddling race really in terms of pace, but Schumacher to an extent deserves a lot of credit. He dictated the gallop on Pogo. He's just going to the front there. Here he is, and he just clings on in what was a busy finish. Horses lunging at him late, 4 of them crossing the line together in the closing stages. I think as you watch this, I think you need to get your Racing TV tracker out, and I think you've got to firmly put the horse sat in last in it, Sunray Major. I think he's a horse of some talent, this fella, and he comes home really well. He travelled just about best in the race under Frankie. He loomed up, but he just had a bit too much to do given how the race was run. Now the pace didn't really pick up at all until the 5th furlong of the 7 furlong trip, so they did dawdle along really. Just starting to wind it up now, Schumacher, from the front, with Misty Grey sat in second place. But it's the 4th and 5th furlong that he picked up really. He's gone from a 13.18 furlong to a 11.36 now between the 3 and the 2. So getting to the 3, he went 13.18. 3 to the 2, he went 11.36. That's a sharp acceleration from Pogo off a steady gallop, and he's got them all at it in behind. Look at Sunray Major, too much to do. He's found a bit of running room now, but the way the race was run, he just had too much to do. The winner's just fired an 11-second dead furlong there to get from the 2 to the 1, so he really has sprinted for 2 furlongs. It's given him just an advantage over Kinross, and he's able to hang on as Lancash comes between horses, and Sunray Major out wide lunges late. So those 2 quick furlongs, when he picked it up from 13.18 to an 11.36, then an 11 dead, has won him the race. And it's full marks to Kieran Schumacher for dictating a steady gallop and being able to quicken up when it mattered, when it was the right time. I think Kinross ran really well. I think he retains all of his ability. He's a very good horse. He's probably better with a bit of cut in the ground, so maybe a bit more ease in the ground. We'll see him to better effect. He goes well at Goodwood, of course, so we might well see him there for the big meeting. Sunray Major, I don't know where they'll go with him, but he's a horse of immense talent, and it'll all drop right for him one day when he gets a good gallop to go at, I'm sure. Pogo, well, it was a good ride. He's going to pick up a penalty for winning this, so life's going to get a good deal tougher for him going forward and perhaps stepping up in grade. This might just have been his day. And a word for Kieran Schumacher, he's riding really well now. He's really got some momentum to this season now. I think on the back of this, he's going to be picking up more and more rides, and he's a man to be with, I think, over the next few weeks or so, because he's riding with an absolute ton of confidence. That was a good ride from the front, nice and steady till they turned in, gradually wound it up, and then he sprinted for 2 furlongs from the 3 to the 1, and then he was able to just cling on from the closers. The one for your notebooks, undoubtedly Sunray Major. Well, it's time now to have a look at what I think is a very, very good 2-year-old. The name is Statuette, and she went off 11 to 10 favourite on her debut at Navan on Saturday over a trip that was just shy of 6 furlongs. Olivia Meralda was 5 to 4. She had the benefit of previous experience. Vernet was 11s. It was 12 to 1 Angel's Feather, 18s and bigger the rest. I just think this filly could be anything. I think she's very good indeed. She jumped out of stall 8. Second home was Olivia Meralda, who came out of 11. And she'd had that one run prior to this. And the third home came out of stall number 6, Silmania. Let's see how this race unfolded. First thing to say, I think, is that this filly has got a beautiful pedigree. She's Justify's first European winner, the sire Justify, but she's out of Immortal Verse, who was a dual Group 1 winner. So she's got a magnificent pedigree. And here, I know you need to be towards the stand side at Navan. It's often the place that you need to be, but it wouldn't have mattered where she'd raced. Even if she'd raced over on the far rail, she'd have won. She was so much superior to these. Olivia Meralda was well fancied on her debut. She finished second at the Curragh. She's second once again here. She's clearly a filly that's quite well thought of, but she is put in her place by this exciting filly trained by Aidan O'Brien. Her final time of 1:11.55 was a good time in the context of the whole card. And watch Ryan Moore's body language here from the two. Olivia Meralda's leading him. He's just about to pick up Statuette. Here she is, just between horses. And he never gets very serious with her. Hands and heels. He does show her the whip, I think, maybe once. But she clears right away in the closing stages and she hits the line very hard. She looks really, really good. And this, bear in mind there, just one little flick of the whip from Ryan. And bear in mind, this is her first ever start. And she'd have taken a while to pull up, I'd have thought, given how hard she hit the line there under Ryan. And she could be very exciting. I don't know where they're going to necessarily go with her. She's got a couple of Group 2 entries at the Curragh in the middle of June. So that tells me that maybe they're thinking of perhaps swerving Royal Ascot. But it would not surprise me if this filly turned out to be a 1,000 guineas filly in the making. Perhaps taking in a big Group 1 for 2-year-old fillies towards the back end. She's a big specimen, she's a big girl, she's got a huge stride on her. There's Ryan just waving the whip, he never flicks her behind the saddle. And I think there she is, take a good look at her, a very good looking filly with a magical pedigree. And for debuts, they don't come much better than that. She was straight and true, she didn't hang, she did everything that Ryan asked her. And when she really got into her stride, she hit that line very hard indeed. It might be a softly approach with her, given her size, but I think going forward, she's going to be a Group 1 2-year-old and possibly a Guineas filly next year. Remember the name, Statuette. I thought that was really, really impressive. Thanks for joining me on The Verdict today. I hope you've enjoyed looking back at some of the races that I was able to choose. We can't put all the races from the weekend, obviously, but I chose some of those, notably for the front-running rides that we saw. Tom Marquand on Quickthorn getting his own way. Kieran Schumacher, to a degree, getting his own way on Pogo. A very good ride from Danny Tudhope on Smiling Jane. Bay Bridge, really impressive. What a good turn of foot he showed. That's what the numbers show that he did in the Coral Brigadier, Gerard. He quickened up in fine style. And a filly to conjure with at Navan. A filly who might just be a classic winner in the making. See you next time.